to be too technical. I did not plan it to be too technical, based on the scope I was given. I think for many of you on this call, this might be like an introduction sort of to, what is this fantastic thing that people are always talking about called AI. And yeah, I'll try to keep it that way. But of course, at the end, if you have questions that are even slightly more technical than I'm going into, you can always ask, and I'll do my best to respond. Yes, so nice to meet all of you. And this is what we are going to be looking at today. It's a small scope. What is AI? Why is AI so big now? Some modern use cases. We look at SWOT analysis of AI. There are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then a few thoughts at the end on how to not get left behind in the wake of all that is happening in this space. Okay, so I think we can dive right in. What is AI? And the AI is actually sort of a buzzword now. People throw it around a lot. So I'm going to try to do this is the most dense slide you are going to see. I'm going to try to keep things much more loose after we move past this slide. So fundamentally, AI is simulating human intelligence processes in machines. So a good way to think of that is what can a human being do? What is something that was previously thought to be only possible with human beings, but now we are seeing a computer doing that thing and doing it well. Any action that can be simulated that way is an expression of artificial intelligence. So any simulation of artificial intelligence of human intelligence in an artificial way is generally what we're referring to as AI. When you follow the thread of AI, you hear a word come up, machine learning. And machine learning is it's more about statistics and certain mathematical what do we call them? Certain mathematical ideas and tools and processes. But the whole idea of machine learning is that in traditional software development, we normally, the programmer sits down and writes instructions that the computer will have to follow and implement to get to a certain outcome. In machine learning, what you are doing is you are setting up the system in such a way that the computer or the system can learn on its own by looking at examples. Okay, I'll show you an interesting depiction of that in the next slide. But basically, machine learning, or ML, is the use and development of computer systems so that they are able to learn from examples without being explicitly programmed. So there's nobody sitting down to say, if you see this, then do this. If you see that, then do that. No, you show or you feed a lot of data into the computer, and it learns the patterns and it learns from the examples, and it determines how to get to a certain output on its own by learning the patterns from the data. So I said AI is simulating human intelligence. Machine learning is a way to achieve that, because you cannot explicitly program every single action a human being would do in a general sense. So machine learning helps a computer to learn those expressions on its own just by looking at the data. A third level deep is there's more buzzwords. There's deep learning, there's stuff like reinforcement learning. Now, these are various techniques within machine learning that have been successful today in implementing AI systems. So deep learning, for example, is a technique that it uses something called artificial neural networks. And when you go deep into it, it's actually just a lot of matrices being multiplied against each other. But those matrices carry the patterns from the data to the required output. Okay, so deep learning is loosely based on what scientists have come to understand about the biology of the brain, because the brain is made up of neurons, and the neurons carry information from one node to another. So deep learning is a mathematical abstraction of that, and it's proven to be very useful in achieving artificial intelligence today. Another example of such a technique, a machine learning technique that's used, is reinforcement learning, which is basically the idea of rewards and punishments. Think about if you have a child and the child does something and you give the child a reward, the child will want to do that thing again. If there's a punishment that follows the action, the child will probably not want to do that thing again. And so reinforcement learning is a mathematical framework for that same idea, where you teach a computer to do something. Every time it does it well or gets a certain outcome, it gets a reward. If it doesn't, it gets, I don't know, a punishment or something. And that is one way by which artificial intelligence is being achieved. Side note, I live close to the airport, so from time to time you might hear a plane or a helicopter passing. If you do, sorry about that. Yeah, so in practice, this is usually what training an AI system looks like. This is not always the case, but you see a robot on the right, you are trying to teach the robot to identify objects, and he's holding up a car, and the robot says butterfly, then he says no car. And then the next time he shows the robot that image, the robot says car. Then now the robot has learned, and then based on the outcome that the robot got and the input that was passed in, the robot can learn. Anytime I see maybe wheels or I see windows and I see all these things together, I can probably safely assume it's a car. Okay. All right. So the question is, why is AI so big now? Because these, in the end, it's actually just a lot of mathematical abstractions, and mathematics has been going on for so long. But why is it that now in 2024, it's such a big deal? And there are two main reasons that I'll give here. The first is increased computational power. So here's a fun fact that the average smartphone has more computing power than all of NASA had during the moon landings. Like the computing power that we used to put a man on the moon in the 1960s or 1940s. The whole of NASA, you have more than that computing power in your smartphone today. So there's really a lot more that we can do with the computers that we have today. There's also the idea of graphical processing units. If you are a gamer, like you play FIFA or something on a console, one of the technologies powering that is parallel processing of the graphics. And a while ago, maybe in the last few decades, some technologists figured out how to apply this parallel processing not just to graphics, but also to general computing stuff. And because you remember I mentioned there's a lot of matrix mathematics involved, what we found is that the mathematics for matrices is very similar to the mathematics for graphics in games and stuff like that. So these new processes, they really speed up the computational time for AI applications. And then the last thing on the point of computational power is cloud computing. Now you might have limited computing power, say on your laptop or on your mobile phone. Remember, I already said this is more than what was available to NASA, but you can still even tap into more computational power online through the cloud, like using services like Amazon, AWS, and the rest. The second thing which is contributing to the boom is big data. Where I got this article from was even something that I looked at in like 2018. So these numbers are really outdated, but they still show you what is going on here. That there's 2.5 quintillion, that's 10 to the power 18 bytes of data produced daily across the world. 90% of the world's data was generated in the last 2 years, as at 2018. 90% of all the data in the world had been generated just between 2016 and 2018. Every second, as at 2018, 40,000 Google searches are run every minute. These numbers, like I'm saying, these are outdated. As at 2018, 4.146 million YouTube videos were watched every minute. And so you can just see there's a lot of data out there. So if really we need data to train systems for the systems to learn the patterns in the data, then there's so much more data available today than what was available a few years ago. So that boom is a huge contributor to the AI boom that we see today. Okay, so now we look at a few use cases, and the goal here, I think it's possible some of you might have even seen some of these things before. If you are really up to date in what's happening in the tech space, you might have. If you are not, you'll be pleasantly surprised, or you might be a little scared with some of the statistics. But anyway, so once again, notice that these dates are really old. Like the oldest data I have on this graph here at the bottom right is 2016. Okay, we are in 2024, so that's 8 years ago. There's a competition called the ImageNet classification competition. And what they do is they give, I think, maybe about 1,000 items, and then they try to test which computer programs are able to identify the most objects correctly. Okay, it's been running since for a long time, maybe like 2011. Human beings have a 5% error rate on the ImageNet classification problem. And over the years, you can see the error rate of different models reducing, right? So in 2011, the best model had a 26% error rate. In 2012, it dropped to 16, 2013, 11, 2014, 7.3, 2014, 6.7. And by 2015, computer vision models have been doing better than human beings. So for almost a decade now, computer vision models have been doing better than human beings. This is something that was achieved through deep learning. So I remember I said deep learning is one of the ways of achieving artificial intelligence. So that technique has really gone far in terms of computer vision. Computer vision is not the only domain of artificial intelligence, though. But here's another computer vision example. This is something called object detection. There's a model called the YOLO model. YOLO stands for you only look once, look, not live. This is something that is really core to what do we call it? It's core to like self-driving technology and the like. This is something when you see like a Tesla and there's self-driving stuff going on there, it's very dependent on this type of technology. Yeah. So this is another achievement of deep learning. Here's another old example. So in 2016, there was a model, a model developed by Google DeepMind called AlphaGo. Go is it's an Asian game. I think it's Chinese. I'm not sure, but it's an Asian game. And the 18-time Go world champion, he was called Lee Sedol. In 2016, he played against that program, that algorithm, and he beat him 4-1. Out of 5 games, he won only 1. And that one that he won was it was celebrated, because this was a model that was just trained on data from the game. Now, what happened is the next year, they built a new version of AlphaGo called AlphaGo 0. This time they moved away from like deep learning and the other traditional or more traditional ways of implementing machine learning algorithms and AI. And they used something closer to reinforcement learning. Remember the reward versus punishment system, and they trained the model from scratch. And this new model beat the old model that had beaten the world champion 100 games. It beat it 100-0. So those are the kinds of things that AI is able to accomplish. It's really able to break certain barriers, learn new patterns in the data, and bring out new kinds of innovations and ways of thinking of things. More recent examples of what AI is doing in the last year or two. I mean, most of us, ChatGPT is probably just about a year old, right? And I think a few people here must be like users of ChatGPT. So in the last few years, let's say the last 2-3 years, there's something called large language models. So we have, when you build you put together an AI algorithm, normally we call that a model. A model is sort of a simulation of certain patterns or real world understandings of things. What they realized in the research was that the larger a model gets, it just seems to do better on language related problems. So people just started building larger and larger and larger models, right? Last I checked, I believe the ChatGPT 3.5 version estimates are that it must have cost about $4 million to train it, right? So they just keep adding more infrastructure, as in faster and faster, more powerful computers, and just keep building larger and larger models on different types of storage. And what you get is a model that really, really seems to understand language and is able to generate, reports. I mean, whatever you use ChatGPT for, answer questions, all kinds of things. And there's a lot of research that's going on in this space. Google had Bard, which recently became Gemini. ChatGPT is obviously the leader. And the truth of the matter is that ChatGPT and Bing AI are essentially using the same thing, because Microsoft is a huge sponsor of OpenAI, who are the developers of ChatGPT. So there's really a lot that is going on in that space between these two companies, OpenAI and Microsoft, and in their products like ChatGPT and Bing AI. So generative AI is really a huge thing, and it cuts across languages even. It's not just English all the time. Now, the latest thing this came out 6 days ago. Let me go back to large language models before I start talking here. So what you normally see on something like ChatGPT is you type in a question or something, you type in an instruction, and then it gives you an output, right? That text that you type, we call that a prompt, okay? So what you are seeing here on the left is a new model from these same guys at OpenAI. It's called Sora. You might or might not have heard of it, depending on how interested you are in these things. So with the prompt at the bottom here, somebody typed tiny potato kings wearing majestic crowns, sitting on thrones, overseeing their vast potato kingdom filled with potato subjects and potato castles. And the model imagined this video. Now, you find this interesting, but imagine you are an animator or a videographer or somebody like that, and you do this for a living, right? It takes you two, three, I don't know, hours or days to complete something like this. But somebody just goes into this new model, types this, and it generates this like in a matter of seconds or minutes, right? That's the level that AI technologies have reached. So now this is not just a language problem anymore, but it's not just also a vision problem, it's a generative problem at this point that is being solved. On the right here, you see another video. The prompt is a computer hacker Labrador retriever wearing a black hooded sweater, sitting in front of the computer with the glare of the screen emanating on the dog's face as he types very quickly. And it generates this. So this is not a real dog. This dog does not exist. The video was generated purely because somebody put this prompt into the model. So that's where AI is going these days. And it can be really exciting or really scary, depending on who you are. This is another video from the Sora model. And the prompt, I think, was, what did they say? I forget, something about a young man about 20 years old sitting on a cloud reading a book, and it generates this. Like, this could take somebody's job. It's actually quite possible. But at the same time, it also shows you that if you're able to jump on the bandwagon, you're able to invest in these technologies for your business or for, I don't know, your creative uses, you can also save costs, and you can, you can scale up and see more profits in whatever it is that you are doing. So yeah, that's another example of the Sora model. So I'm trying to get out of this slide. Okay. Yeah. Another example of AI is, you remember my first slide, the picture that was actually AI generated. I did not find it online or something. In Google Slides, I just went and typed in a prompt, a hand with a magnifying glass over the words AI written on a sheet of paper. And that's how we got the first image in this slide. So that's an example of how it can save you time, right? If you know what you are doing and how to use it. Okay, so on that, I'm just checking the time quickly. Yeah. We come to the SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. And like I said, I've been using AI. So some of these points, I am practicing what I'm preaching. So yeah, here's something that I wanted to highlight. So for the strength, AI increases efficiency because you can get a lot more output for a little input. So it increases efficiency and scalability. Things that are repetitive, AI tends to learn really well from that kind of data and it's able to, really take out the grunt work that we don't want to be doing when there's repetitive stuff going, scanning through a lot of documents for some information. AI excels at that, and it's able to adapt because it's all really based on the data. Weaknesses, there's a lot of dependency on data. So if you do not have a lot of data, you struggle to really put forward a good AI application. A good example is, a lot of African languages are classified as low resource. A lot of people might speak them. There might be a lot of information on the radio stations and whatnot, but there's very little written data. So it becomes hard for you to interact with an AI application in a local African language. Yeah. So there's also, sorry, I think there's some sound. Okay. Yeah, there's also the issue of the complexity, right? These things can be hard to implement, and in the end, it's a few experts who end up doing a lot of these implementations. It doesn't have to be so, but with, especially when if you start to dig into like the mathematical underpinnings of this, it can be a little complex. Interpreting the output of AI models too can be hard because a lot of it tends to look like a black box. And then another weakness is ethical concerns. Yeah, if it's trained on data, if AI algorithms are trained on data, then it means that whatever biases, whatever, and that will come in under threats, but whatever negative information is found in the data tends to affect the model, and the model can replicate, all the negative ethical concerns. Okay, some opportunities are like for market growth, enhanced decision making, automation. These are all things that AI will help you do because it's so efficient, so scalable, and so adaptable. And for the threats, I already mentioned, starting with the data. So the bias inherent in the data, it comes in. There's job displacement. I showed you some of these examples, and you know that it's very possible that these things could take people's jobs. Now, this is very characteristic of any industrial revolution. When trains came, when factories came around, people used to do certain types of jobs, had to adapt, or the system moved on without them. So job displacement is a real concern, and I think it behooves on everybody to be responsible for your own career and make sure that you can tap in the right ways. There's also issues of misinformation like deep fakes and fake news. You can't really trust anything anymore because if somebody releases a video of somebody doing something, and that is frowned upon in society, you're going to get to a point where it's hard to determine what is real and what is not. And yeah, so those are some of the threats. Okay, so this is my final few thoughts on how to not get left behind, because the world is moving at a pace. What we just saw, like with the Sora videos and things, I mean, people knew it was possible, but nobody imagined that just a year after ChatGPT, we would be seeing this kind of thing. And so if you look forward a year and try to imagine what is coming next, you are really not sure, right? But here are a few thoughts. First thing is, short of going into school for a degree in something like this, which is expensive and not always worth it, depending on how you go about it or what advice you get. Because sometimes your research might become obsolete by, just a day after putting it out. There's a better model and you are obsolete. The simple things we can do are to stay informed. Like don't let these things take you by surprise. And staying informed also helps you to make use of the right tool for the right job. So on that note, also play with the tools. Like you have to do a presentation. There are probably AI tools that can help you move faster. This presentation, I put it together, I mean, by the time I sat down to do it, was just a few hours. Back in the day, it would have taken like a while, even finding the right images and stuff like that. But yeah, play with the tools. If you are tech savvy, and by tech savvy, I mean, maybe you have some programming skills, or you know your way around technology to a reasonable degree. You can try some online courses. I mean, Udemy, Coursera, all those places. There's so much information online that you can learn from. If you have younger siblings, children, encourage them to get involved in some of these things. I'm not saying force it on them because I mean the life of a techie can be boring at times, but encourage the younger people to get involved in some of these things. Sometimes you just need a little hand holding to push somebody in the right direction. If you own a business or something, you probably want to be keeping tabs on your data, getting it in, Excel sheets, the right format. You don't know when that data will be useful. When one day you can take a model, analyze all that data, and have something automated for you. Final thing, it has a question mark at the end because I am not an investment advisor and I've not done this myself. But I mean, you can find some AI ventures to invest in. If you had invested in something like NVIDIA a year ago, right now, you would have really huge returns, 200 and something percent. Yeah. So yeah, those are just a few thoughts on how to stay in the loop with all of this. And yeah, I think that's my time. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Any questions? I'll try to answer. If I can't, I know Nadia and Loremita are here.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. And I think SK, sorry, not SK, but Rukwaro has joined us. Rukwaro, do you want to take over and help us in the Q&A session?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
I'm happy to take over and just let me know if you have a question and you can just pop it to KO. Maybe I can go first. In terms of, because there is quite I will say there's some learning that's involved. How many people you will say right now in the continent are well versed with AI? Like, what's the penetration right now in the industry?
That sounds like an interview question. Yeah. Ooh. The number keeps increasing. That's what I can say. I think the number is fairly low. Let me look at things from the general tech space and then try to narrow in towards this. In terms of people who are like tech savvy and software engineers and the like, there's actually a really huge number of people who are like into tech related things these days, right? Especially among the youth, people, I don't know, 35 and under. There's really a lot of people who have gotten involved in these things, but not all of them are necessarily involved in the AI or the machine learning side of things. For example, like a school like CMU Africa, because Carnegie Mellon University, like in the US, is actually one of the world's most respected schools when it comes to machine learning, computer science, all of these things, right? So people who come into a space like this that I found myself in, it tends to rub off on you, even if you're not like an applied ML major and you're doing software engineering or cybersecurity, you still find it touching you somehow because these technologies become enablers. So there's now, like in cybersecurity, there's the need for you to understand models to a certain extent because a model can become a tool in somebody breaking into your system. So percentage-wise, I don't know if I had to guess, because let's say there's 1 billion people in Africa, right? Roughly 1 billion. 10% of that is 100 million, and 1% of the population would be 10 million, right? I do not think there's 10 million people in Africa who are like, really deep, really well versed in AI related stuff. I really doubt there's 10, like I'm Ghanaian, that's what 30% of the population of Ghana. No, I don't think there's that many people. Certainly we will get to that point because these are going to become native technologies. You know, like the way a smartphone might be hard to navigate for an adult, but it's very easy. Like I have a 2-year-old niece who knows how to open the phone and go to YouTube or something. These numbers are really going to skyrocket. But at the moment, I'm pretty sure it's less than 1%, maybe even less than 0.1% of the African population that is, you know, really involved in these things. But here's another angle. Most of us are starting to interact with these tools, and sometimes we don't even know it, because like something like recommender systems, the YouTube algorithm, the Instagram algorithm, all of these things have AI running in the background, and you just don't know you're interacting with it, right? But now increasingly, many people are starting to use stuff like ChatGPT, are starting to use, I don't know, DALL-E or something to generate images. We are getting there. If you use a tool like Canva, if you use a tool like, even I went on LinkedIn and I realized they were telling me I can use AI to optimize my profile, whatever that means. I think we are getting to the point where it's going to be so much in our faces that the adoption rate will skyrocket very soon. But as at now, in terms of people who have the know-how, in terms of people who are able to do this and do it well, I think the numbers are much lower. But we are getting there. It's not like a hopeless situation. I think, especially for the generation coming up, you know, people who are in school right now, like high school, junior high school. I think those guys will have like a much better chance if they are able to jump on this really quickly. Yeah.
Great. There's a question here from Elvis Karaya. Very ethical, I would say. So he says that just because we can doesn't mean we should. Should AI growth develop at the speed it is now, given that its risk of being used for evil, such as misinformation or disinformation, might outpace its good and regulations can't keep up?
Yeah, I guess that question, just because we can doesn't mean we should. I mean, first of all, this is one reason why I think we need more people in the space, because you need the right people at the table. You need a diversity of voices at the table where these decisions are made. Okay, so like this Sora model, it's not been released for just everybody, and the reason is because everyone realizes the potential that it has for misinformation, disinformation, all of that. My opinion here is probably not going to affect the rate at which the field is developing, because I am not, you know, so close to the table. Like, I you know, I have some knowledge, but the real decisions on these things are made by, you know, the people who are like the actual researchers and the people who are developing these technologies before government regulation and all these things come in. Regulation is definitely probably not going to keep up with it. But then again, that's the thing about every industrial revolution. Regulation has never been able to keep up with it. You know, people will develop tools, and those tools can be used for good or for evil. Like the way, you know, every government's military has such a dependency on weapons, but at the same time, there are criminals who use weapons, you know. So in the end, whether we should because we can or we shouldn't, I think it's inevitable that it's still going to happen. The rate at which these things are developing, it is still going to happen. Whether we do it or we say, no, let's not do this, somebody is going to develop the technology. And what we need is more people who are level-headed, who are going to be there in the room when those decisions are being made, to make sure that, okay, my Kenyan context is being considered, my Ghanaian context is being considered. All of these things are being considered, and it's not just a bunch of people who they understand their context, but they've not thought about, you know, the rest of the world, and they are pushing out something because it benefits them, not realizing it's probably going to hurt other people. So whether we should because we can or not, it's still going to happen. I guess what we need is more people in the room when those decisions are being taken. Yeah.
Oh, great. I think just to sum it up, it's like AI can only do so much, but it won't do regulations for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I saw Lorimita was
Okay.
even saying something about some top voices, and they say he has a link. I like CME people; they always have links to their facts.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's a couple more questions.
Okay.
I think I'll start with these ones from Adang. It says that now in the creative space, now that AI has debuffed the so-called creative block, how can they stay relevant and continue charging clients high costs? So basically, like the creative industry, how will they navigate the threat that is AI in terms of their costing?
Okay. Let me say this. The reason why I first got into AI, I actually had that slide, but I removed it because of time. In 2017, I was learning a JavaScript framework. I mean, I've been a software engineer long before I started these things. I was learning a JavaScript framework called React. It's a way we make web applications, websites, and that kind of thing. And then I saw an AI model that was somebody would hand draw what they wanted, and it's generated React code for the person. Like the thing I was learning, the model was already doing. And that's when I realized I'm about to fall behind unless I learn what it takes to make that model that is doing the thing I'm now learning. I don't know if you get me. So for me, that was a moment of awakening and learning that I had to adapt, right? And I think that's what we all need to do. We can, look at all the demerits and say, this is not good for jobs, it's not good for this, but it's good for somebody's productivity somewhere. So what I think we need is, especially like people like creatives and the like, is to ask the question, well, first of all, how can you protect yourself if at all possible? Because I know there's research into that. But also, how can you take advantage of the tool to 10x your own productivity? You get me? So
Okay.
yeah, how do you make sure that you stay ahead of the curve? So for example, in my context, like right now I use an AI tool called GitHub Copilot, right? When I'm writing code for a project or something, what GitHub Copilot does is that I can just type a suggestion and it starts to generate the code for me. And then instead of me sitting down to think for 2 hours, I've typed the thing, it's giving me a suggestion, and I just go through and check for errors or how to make that piece of code more efficient. And it really reduces the time I have to spend working on a project so that I can do more work. I can, get more done, more benefits for the same level of effort I was putting in the first time. So I think everybody needs to adapt. And adapting might look different for different people, but find a way in which you can adapt to the technology. You need to ask yourself those hard questions.
Okay. So I guess the creatives in the call know that they need to adapt, or else they will be reduced to the Kodaks of this generation. Yeah, then I could move to another question by Elvis. I think he was referring to there was a chatbot in Canada. I think it was Chevrolet. So he's asking whether artificial AI chatbots will gain personhood anytime soon.
Okay. I'm not. I'm the one telling everybody to be informed, and I don't know about that case, but I do know about the concerns where people are worried about, or is it worried about like a bot developing consciousness or like a whole personality on its own. By scientific definition, like the world of science does not even agree on what consciousness is. When you start to talk about consciousness, the people who give you the most convincing arguments, I guess, are not even coming from like a purely evidential science background. It's more like spiritual or social or something. So as far as what makes something a person or a personality, that's harder to define. But I think what we are seeing is that these bots, these tools are at least simulating personality to a point where it's significant enough that it shouldn't be ignored, right? like sometimes you can be working with maybe Bing especially, Bing AI, and it starts to get defensive, right? It's very possible that those are just character traits it is picking up from the data on which it was trained, right? And that's the best answer you can give, like from a scientific perspective, just because of what it takes to define personhood, or a character, or all of that. So yeah, I don't think there's a very clear answer on what's personhood of a chatbot. I think the conversations are very likely to sound more and more human, just because there's so much data available and people keep digging humongous models. But I don't think we are going to get to the point where, this is my personal thing, where we are going to look at it like an AI chatbot has a soul now, and it's yeah, but that's a very interesting area of research. And I think especially for, and this is where I mean I would have like a caution for like kids growing up. There was a day where children had all these imaginary friends and things. I don't think we want to get to the point where children are so poorly socialized that it starts to look at a chatbot as his best friend, rather than the actual human being he can play with and interact with. So I think that's an area of caution, definitely, that even if it's never going to be like a real person, it might learn to simulate that well enough that we should at least treat it with a little bit of seriousness. Yeah.
Great. Then I guess in that case, we are now looking at whether AI has the capabilities for emotional intelligence, which I don't think we've gotten there yet.
Yeah, not yet, not yet.
Okay, great. Maybe you can take one last one. It's coming from Gaia. So he's asking, because we are primarily a service organization, so do you have any sort of like examples of how AI has been used in sort of like service to the community, or organizations that are using AI in such capacities, or even in terms of like sort of like networking, assisting members with networking opportunities and stuff like that?
Okay, wait, you're talking about like AI for social good. Is that
Yes.
the okay? Yeah. So I mentioned AI for social good because there's an organization called AI for Social Good, or AI for Good. I forget the specifics. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are trying to make sure that AI is safe. Yeah, I mean, you guys are in Kenya. So for example, the IBM research facility in Nairobi, you might or might not know it, but there's one really like world-class AI engineers and researchers. And that's one of the big things that they are focused on, like making sure that AI is interpretable, like maybe it has to give a classification of some sort, and it does it, and we can explain the steps how this model got to this point, okay? So that it's not just like we take the word of an AI system as gospel, but we actually put in the work to make sure that it's reasonable what it's doing. Also things like the ethical implications. One of the most popular AI courses in the world is fast.ai, the Fast AI course. It's by a man called Jeremy Howard and his wife. Really like great. He's one of the pioneers of what has become the large language model technology. And I noticed either a year or two ago that at the end of the course, after you've done all the technicalities and learned how to build a model that can do really cool stuff, one of the final stages of that is an ethical like AI, subsection, where they are trying to, make sure that you are responsible with this tool. I mean, you think of something like the army or something like the police services, they are giving you a gun. So that's why they take you through so much training to make sure you are disciplined with what you are doing. And so, yeah, there are some organizations that are really trying to find creative ways to make sure that AI is doing something good, that AI is benefiting society, There are a lot of think tanks, there are a lot of hackathons that go on, there are a lot of, community, what do we call it, initiatives to make sure that this technology is used for what it's supposed to be used for. And yeah, I mean, I don't have like the full scope of everything that everybody is doing in the world. The people who do the best sort of humanitarian work tend to do it in secret. So we would never know for sure how many people are actually using this for social good. But I think I've seen enough examples that I'm very hopeful for the future. Like there's people thinking about these issues all the time. And yeah, I think there's, in as much as there's always that fear of what could come of this, there's also, all the good that could come of it, like AI for detecting cancer in early stages, AI that I don't know, AI for security reasons, detecting when there's an intruder in a place, healthcare, just speeding up education, like all kinds of things, even AI for like challenged people, like people with speech impediments. I saw this really cool demo, somebody with a speech impediment, and now the model learns it almost as if it's another language. And when he speaks, it's able to tell you exactly what the person is saying. So yeah, there's so much good that is coming of this. It might not get as much hype as the scary parts of things, but yeah, there are people doing really good work out there in the world. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Thank you. I guess we shall wrap up the Q&A now, and I think all that's left is for me to say a big thank you to you for the amazing presentation, although I joined in a bit late. But thank you so much for agreeing to share the information with us. And I know it was quite short notice, but this has been, or at least the part that I have attended has been really well presented, and hoping that we can also get the slides, if that's okay with you, after the meeting.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, but a big thank you from us as the club, and yeah, we should keep in touch. Definitely, we should find out what's happening in your space in terms of like AI development. And then also I have to mention, in the spirit of full disclosure, that the title for today's talk was generated by ChatGPT.
Then it's good I also had slides generated by yeah, it's only fair.
Yeah, it's only fair, because I thought, let's see what ChatGPT, although it took ChatGPT like 4 or 5 attempts to come up with this. So I was like, it took you a bit too long, but I mean, it's okay. But thank you so much, KO, for the presentation. I think we can now move to Happy Dollars. Maybe for
thank you so
the
much.
benefit. Okay, fine. Yeah, carry on.
Thank you so much, Rukwaro, and thank you so much, Kwadwo, for that. And I think even just before we jump into Happy Dollars, I think allow me just appreciate the effort that has been made to make this meeting possible. Thank you so much, Rukwaro, for making sure that this session is well organized, working through to ensure that we have a speaker for this session and coming in to lead the meeting. I think that is the kind of initiative we want to see more of our members stepping up into and leading us in these spaces. And thank you so much, Kwadwo, for taking us through that session. And my challenge to all the club members will be that with all that we have learned today, and the challenge and us being challenged to even go and get into spaces that we can learn a little bit more about AI, my challenge to all our members would be, what are the specific opportunities that we can find to improve how we serve the community? What are the learnings you can get that can help us more efficiently serve the community through AI tools? And secondly, how can we better interact as members of the club using those tools. So we are not changing the humanness within our space, but what tools can we use to enhance that experience? So thank you so much, Rukwaro, and thank you so much, Kwadwo, for that. Before I hand it back to Rukwaro, just want to mention to you that please invite Ben Kimani. He has an announcement that is very critical. So back to you, President Charles.
Well, thank you. So I guess we can move to the announcement by Ben.
Thank you very much. So before I go to the announcement, I would just like to say this presentation, number one. Number two, a big also thank out to the team that showed up for the Sunshine Rally. It was a very big team. Thank you very much. That was so good of you. Now, for the announcement is we are still having the hike on the 2nd of March. That's next month. So everyone is invited. I don't recall if you have the image of it, you can actually just display, or whoever is the host. So we are having that on the 2nd of March. We also are happy to say that we're using AI to make team members. So you're seeing some communication on the group, so don't worry. Some people had issues on how we are doing that, so it's powered. It's still learning. It hasn't learned much yet, but yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and all the best to the guys going for the hike. I'm sure it's going to be really, really nice. So we can move to Happy Dollars. I guess I should. The floor is open. So for the benefit of anyone who has not been to a Rotary meeting before, the sergeant, it's basically the sergeant at arms session. So one of the aims of this session is for people to contribute money to the club for a good cause, of course. So if something has made you really happy or really sad during the week, you get to speak about it, and then you send $1, which is now at 150, I believe, to the till number that has been posted here. And of course, all monies go to fund club projects. So yes, it's for a good cause. So yeah, the floor is now open.
My apologies. And now I don't know how to unmute and at the same time share my screen. So I think I'll give $5 happy for myself. One for the good work that the team did to rally our members. We have a committee that was working specifically to rally our members to attend the Sunshine Rally. I think they did a very good job. Second one, for the people who showed up for Sunshine Rally, I think it was such a good place to interact and to see faces that probably I last saw in December during our AGM, and that was quite good. The third one, to Rukwaro for the organization. I think Rukwaro has been briefing me through every step to making this session possible, and I just like the way he took ownership of this meeting and just making sure that it was a success. I think that is good job. Fourth, for our speaker today, for opening up our eyes to things we should really be thinking about critically, especially around different spaces in our careers and what we do each and every single day. Just examining ourselves, what do I do that can be turned redundant tomorrow, and then what do I do that I can use AI to enhance my value in the spaces that I'm in. So that is so good. And then finally, to everyone joining this meeting, it's such an incredible chance to learn and grow together. I'm gonna add one more, just because in the last meeting, it was announced that all members' happy dollars go to the foundation. So I am excited to give more, because giving more in our happy dollars means that I'm giving more to the Rotary Foundation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. President, for that. I think I shall also give 5 happy dollars. Two happy dollars go to our guest speaker for today, KO. That was an amazing presentation, and also thank you for agreeing to do this at a really short notice. I really appreciated. Yeah, and then the rest of the 3 generally just go to the club for making me feel welcome since I joined. And yeah, let's keep up the good job. So of course, if you are not willing to speak about it, you can always, yeah, Millie has given 3 happy dollars. Thank you, Millie. Yeah, you can always post the happy dollars that you will be contributing. Sort of like, I feel like an usher in church at this point, but I mean, it's fine. Thank you, Kim, giving $1. Emmanuel with 2 happy dollars, number 1 for a good presentation. Number 2, he says no moon landing. That one just flew over my head. Guess that's what I get for coming in late. Let me see. Oh, there was no moon landing. Again, that also flew over my head. Chris says 2 happy dollars from him. Thank you, Chris. Really nice presentation. Waiting to see whether there's any more. Let me see whether there's anyone I can pick on. Hi, Adan. Any happy dollars? Adan has been asking, you asked 2 questions and you're not giving happy dollars. I don't know whether he's still here. Anyway. Yep, I guess. There's a, sorry. Yes, Ben, surely.
So mine is 2 happies. One is for the lovely presentation and a lot of insights. Then number 2, obviously for the hike. I'll add the third one for people to find themselves who did not participate in the elections, or if you have no idea what elections were happening. This goes to Jabali members.
Okay, thank you. Also, thank you to Jacinta for 2 happy dollars. I think that if there are no more, because I do see we are, we've extended our time a bit. I think we can close it. No, thank you, Bilha. 3 happy dollars. Yeah, so I'm not sure, Mr. President, will you be closing the meeting?
No, you can wrap it up. Nothing else from my end.
Okay. Can see 2 more happy dollars coming in. Very fast session. Welcome. We have very engaging speakers. We do not speak about AI all the time. So we are welcome to join us for the next one, it's definitely going to be something else just as exciting. So thank you for joining. Yep, I think we can wrap it up. Sorry, again, I joined late. I'm not sure whether we have any, apart from Langata, not sure whether we have any other visiting Rotaractors or Rotarians. Well, I think we'll just close it at that. So in conjunction with the Rotaract Club of Langata, the Great Rotary Club of, the Rotaract Club of JKUAT, hoping I'm not missing any other club.
You're missing Nairobi Central. I think someone has posted.
Sorry. So yes, and the Rotaract Club of Nairobi Central. I give you Rotary to the world over.
Rotary the world over.
Thank you, everyone. Meeting is closed. Yeah, we can do socials now. Yep. Thank you, Keyo, for the slides.
Maybe you can, Rukwaro, maybe you can copy the link and post it in the group.
Yeah, doing so just now.
Let me stop the recording.